Hi, third graders. Today we're going to learn the lowercase I. I is an undercurve letter. First, we'll learn all of the lowercase letters that start with undercurve strokes. You'll notice that I have a whiteboard here and a dry erase marker. If you have one, these are really good to practice on. If you don't have one, any piece of blank paper, like this one here, and a pen will do. Practicing on a whiteboard or a blank piece of paper first helps you learn the shape. I also have a pen nearby and a blank piece of lined cursive paper, which you should always have nearby so that you can practice writing in the lines. Here's I. Undercurve, pull back, undercurve, dot. Now, you'll notice that the lowercase I is made up of two undercurve strokes and the I ends with a dot. Watch again. Undercurve, pull back, undercurve, dot. Undercurve, pull back, undercurve, dot. The nice thing about practicing on a whiteboard is you don't have to worry yet about size. You can just focus on the shape of your letter and the slant of your letter. Undercurve, pull back, undercurve, dot. Undercurve, pull back, undercurve, dot. Undercurve, pull back, undercurve, dot. And remember, saying the strokes will help some of you remember the shape. Undercurve, pull back, undercurve, dot. Undercurve, pull back, undercurve, dot. You can fill the whole whiteboard or a whole blank piece of paper up before moving on to a lined piece of paper or before you're comfortable. Let me show you what I looks like on lined paper. Now, I have a whole sheet of lined paper here, and I don't want to waste any of it. So I'm going to start right up at the top. You'll notice the headline, the midline, the bottom line, and what Mrs. D calls the basement line. Those are for your letters that have descenders. Watch as I write an undercurve lowercase I. Undercurve, pull back, undercurve, dot. Undercurve, pull back, undercurve, dot. Undercurve, pull back, undercurve, dot. You can continue on and fill the whole line up. Notice I'm taking my time and I'm focusing on the size now of my letters. I start at the bottom line, undercurve to the midline, pull back to the bottom line, undercurve to the midline again, and dot it. Undercurve, pull back, undercurve, dot. Undercurve, pull back, undercurve, dot. And there you have it. There's your lowercase I. I want to show you joinings now. When you join two cursive letters together, you don't take your pen off the page. I'm going to make two I's together to show you how to join, because that's the only letter you know so far. So I'm going to show you I. Undercurve, pull back. Now watch. The undercurve is going to start the first part of the next I. Undercurve, pull back, undercurve, dot, dot. There are two I's together. The last part of my first I becomes the first part of my second I, and that's how you join letters together when writing in cursive. Undercurve, pull back. Watch this part. Now, this undercurve becomes the first part of my next I. Undercurve, pull back, undercurve, dot, dot. Undercurve, pull back for one I. Undercurve, pull back for the second I, dot, dot. Two I's together. Now, Mrs. D is going to show you some very common third grade mistakes. I want to remind you that we're going to have to pay attention to the four keys of legibility. Size of your letters, shape of your letters, slant, and when you're joining letters together, You have to also pay attention to spacing between your letters and eventually your words. So the lines on this paper help me with size. I know these are the right size because it starts at the bottom line, goes to the midline, goes back to the bottom line, and ends at the midline. So my size is good. Shape. I made a lowercase I with an undercurve, a pull back, and another undercurve. So my shape is also good. Now slant. Cursive writing is slanted. If I add in these slanted lines, you can see that my slant is good. It's a good slant. And then spacing between letters. My I's have equal amount of space in between. Mrs. D is going to show you a few common third grade mistakes, and I'm wondering if you can pick out if my mistake is a mistake in the size, the shape, the slant, or the spacing. Here's I by itself. This is a very common I mistake. So take a look at that compared to the ones that I already made. Do you think the size is incorrect, the shape, the slant, or the spacing on this I here? How does this I, which is a very common third grade mistake, how does this I compare to the ones I've already done? If you said slant, you're correct. This is not slanted the right way. In fact, it goes backwards. It's very common. You can avoid this mistake by pushing your pen forward that way and by slanting your paper. So righties will slant it this way. Lefties would slant it this way. So I'm a righty. By slanting your paper, you're automatically making sure the slant is there. Undercurve, pull back, undercurve, dot. Undercurve, pull back, undercurve, dot. When I turn my paper the right way, there you have the slant. So watch out, third graders, for this basic third grade mistake. It's a slant mistake. Here's another one. What do you think about this? Is the mistake in the size, the shape, the slant, or the spacing? If you said size, you're right. It's too big. I would make a similar mistake if I did this. Too small. So be careful. Use those lines to help you with size of your letters. Now, let's talk about shape for a minute. This is another common third grade mistake. This is a shape mistake, and it happens, this is the mistake right here. It happens when you don't pull your pen back in the second part of the letter. Watch Mrs. D. Undercurve, pull back, undercurve, dot. When you push your pen forward instead of pulling back, that's when you get a shape mistake like this one. And last but not least, let's talk about spacing. Here's my first I, undercurve, pull back, undercurve, pull back, dot, dot. This is a spacing mistake, so watch out. You shouldn't have too much space between letters, and you shouldn't have too little. Let me show you too little. Too little. You want a uniform spacing. That means about the same amount of space between each of your letters, just like mine up here. So, boys and girls, practice, practice, practice. There is your lowercase I.